and welcome to Business Standard Views of the Week. What's the new deal that the Modi government is offering Indian industry? How can it avoid meeting the same fate as the Manmohan Singh government? What bold government decisions do India's telcos need in the era of 5G? Subscribe to Business Standard and read this week's top opinion pieces to find out. We start off with a piece that reveals the approach the government plans to adopt in its economic policy making. A few days before his Independence Day address from the ramparts of Red Fort, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had delivered an important speech at a meeting of leading industrialists. 4 points stood out in his message. Unfortunately, however, they have been largely ignored by commentators. In his latest column, A.K. Bhattacharya identifies and decodes those points to reveal how the Modi government will approach economic reforms and the new deal that it is offering Indian industry. In doing so, he also explains the government's thinking on a diverse range of issues, from Make in India to the farm laws. Only time will tell how the government's new deal for India Inc. pans out. Meanwhile, our next piece deals with the one policy area where there is no margin for error. India needs trillions of dollars in investment over the next few decades to get to the green frontier. It needs to tap both existing and emerging technologies to meet the greatest challenge of our time, fostering growth while addressing climate change. With that in mind, Jayant Sinha's latest column outlines what the government can do to both boost green industries that have already taken root and establish those that straddle the bleeding edge of technologies that are yet to mature but hold great promise. The recent extreme weather events and findings have made it clear that the nations of the world need to set and meet ambitious decarbonization targets to secure humanity's future. Speaking of ambitious targets, the government recently announced a pipeline of assets that it plans to monetize to collect an impressive 6 trillion rupees. That's an ambitious announcement, to say the least. However, it's also fraught with danger. A key question is whether the Modi government will end up meeting the same fate as the Manmohan Singh government, which was destroyed by the auction of telecom licenses and coal mines. In his latest column, T.N. Neenan unearths the various landmines that the government will have to avoid in executing its plan. He does so by thoroughly analyzing the record of governments, both past and present, and the vulnerabilities present in a system. Our next piece, an editorial comment, also delves into the details of the national monetization pipeline. Business Standard identifies the one thing that the government has got right at the very outset. It also outlines the challenges that await the government in executing the asset monetization plan. And most importantly, it spells out a clear goal towards which the proceeds generated from this exercise should go. On the topic of important goals, ensuring that the telecom sector becomes sustainable is one that can't be ignored. Self-imposed constraints have restricted India's telecom sector and digitization, while undoing the retrospective tax amendment that afflicted Vodafone was an excellent move. Users and service providers are still swimming against the tide. Keeping that in mind, Shyam Punappa's latest column reveals 2 more bold decisions that the government must take to give India's telcos a fighting chance in the era of 5G and beyond. Moving on, we bring you a thought-provoking piece about the shifting balance of power in the world. From America's ignominious Afghanistan exit to China's continuing concentration of wealth and power, clearly the world is witnessing a major transition. Amid the great uncertainty surrounding what the end state will look like, TCS Srinivas Raghavan's latest column reveals an interesting trend that has held true for centuries and could help you make a fairly accurate guess about what's likely to happen in the years to come. Last but not the least, we bring this edition of BS Views to a close with an important prescription for the government. Several developments on the COVID-19 vaccination front point to the urgent need for the government to formulate a coherent long-term policy. The case has become urgent now that it has become clear that the target of fully vaccinating all adults by the end of the year is unlikely to be met under the present circumstances. Business Standard advises the government on what it should do next on the vaccination front and identifies the potential missteps it should avoid.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.